All right, everyone. Good morning. Aloha kakahiaka. Aloha nui kako. Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Aloha. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. As I mentioned before, my name is Esme Infante. I'm the Director of Communications here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center, and I will be serving as your MC today. I want to say on behalf of, oh, where did my clicker go? Here we go. Okay. So on behalf of our 300, this is only about 150 in this picture, on behalf of our 350 faculty and staff, as well as our director, Dr. Naoto Ueno, who is traveling today. He wanted to be here. On behalf of all of us, welcome, Velina. And thank you for joining us here for How Clinical Trials Saves Lives, presented by the Susan C. Hirano Cancer Care Community. First, before we do anything, let's please take a moment to connect with each other and establish some connections here, because our cancer care community exists, of course, to build connections. Also, the University of Hawaii as a whole and our cancer center are moving toward becoming Native Hawaiian places of learning. And so Pilina, which is connection, is very important to us. So if you would please, folks, take a moment in a second to turn to somebody in your table area or near you to introduce yourself and share where or who you are from. Again, share where you're from or who you're from. Go ahead. All right, everyone. Thank you very much. All right. So today we are very excited to present to you our fifth event in the Susan C. Hirano Cancer Care Community Series. And this is, of course, How Clinical Trials Saves Lives. And we are excited about today for several reasons. And I will name at least three. So number one, we are very excited about our special speakers. And our experts today will be sharing with you important information about clinical trials, excuse me, to help you understand how clinical trials can benefit patients, of course, but also to advance cancer care for everyone. In addition, our panelists today will also share a bit of their hearts with you as they share their personal stories. And the idea is that we hope you will find your time with us not only educational, but also inspiring and thought-provoking, and helping to empower you to make choices as well. So please, a round of applause for our speakers, who I will individually introduce as they come up. Very excited, very honored to have them. Number two, we are excited to also tell you about our Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center. I'm going to come back to that topic in a moment. Excuse me. But also, today is a very special day because we are marking the 1-year anniversary of the Susan C. Hirano Cancer Care Community. Can we get a round of applause, please? This is really excited about this. Thrilling landmark. It is also a little bit of an emotional day, especially for our core team. In just 1 year, we've had hundreds of patients, survivors, thrivers, caregivers, family members, health providers, all have come through this space at our 5 events. As you know, the CARE in Cancer Care Community stand for Community Awareness, Research, Emotional Well-Being. And this program is really we're happy to report, growing and becoming a trusted space for these important principles. It so happens that today, the day of this event, is also exactly 1 year, the 1-year anniversary of Susan Hirano's passing. So this is a very special day for us. On this day, we would like to first acknowledge Susan's husband, Peter Hirano. Peter, where are you? Are you here? Hi, Peter. We want to say thank you for Susan. We want to say thank you, Peter. Thank you for your strong and consistent support of this program and of our center. We truly appreciate you. I also, sorry. We also want to take a moment to mahalo our hardworking core team. that has worked together to produce the 5 major quarterly events for your cancer care community. Over the past year, they have given so much of their time and their expertise, their ike, their manao, and just from their hearts. And so please join me in some applause for our core team. Of course, Peter Hirano leading us. Also, from our faculty, Dr. Jamie Fukui and Dr. Hideko Yamauchi, sitting back over there. Dr. Erin Bantam isn't able to join us today because she just had a baby. So we're so excited for her. From UH Foundation, Tawny Sablan, Kathleen Griffin, and Corinne Ehara. Also, our event coordinator, Michelle Hashimoto. And a whole army of volunteers. We appreciate this incredible team. So please give them one more round of applause. They worked so hard to make these events happen. It is a real honor to work with them. Now, a word about Susan. We just want to talk about her for a second more, because if you never had the pleasure of meeting our dear friend Susan Hirano, I just want to tell you she was a patient advocate, a metastatic breast cancer thriver, a UH Cancer Center Hope ambassador, and she really was a visionary who believed in the power of community. This is why we are here. This is why she founded the cancer care community. And she created the cancer care community because she really believed that no one who is facing cancer should face it alone. She really believed that knowledge would empower patients, and she believed that community would bring strength to you. And so these are some of the major principles that she founded this program around. But I just want to tell you also, and of course we have Susan's beautiful portrait up here. Tanya, thank you for framing that and bringing that today. Susan was just a beautiful soul. She was she was our friend. She went the extra mile over and over again for our center, for patients, for her friends and her family. And she truly blessed us every minute that we got to spend with her and every minute that she worked here at the center. And such a legacy she has launched here with our cancer care community. So again, Tani, thanks for bringing that portrait. And this anniversary today is why many of us are wearing yellow. So you'll see some of our staff walking around in yellow, Susan's favorite color. Also the butterflies. That's what that's about as well, because the butterflies had great meaning for Susan, so that's why we're wearing them today. So for all of you in the audience, if you didn't get a chance to meet Susan, if you're also curious about the origins of the Cancer Care Community Program, we do have a 5-minute video that explains Susan's work here at the center and the origin story of the cancer care community. So if you would like to see that video, we invite you to stick around. We'll show it as an optional viewing at the end of the program after we're pal. Okay, so please stick around for that. So with that, I will segue now into our program because, of course, Susan was an outspoken advocate for clinical trials. She was an outspoken advocate for our Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center, which is in the process of launching as we speak. And these factors and more are why clinical trials save lives made sense to be the topic of our event today. The aim of our workshop today is to help each of you grow in your understanding of clinical trials. We do hope that everyone in the community will come to understand that clinical trials are not just about research, they are about saving lives. They are about offering options and possibility and offering hope. Today, you will hear from some of our top experts in the science and the administration of clinical trials. You will also hear personal stories from patients and from caregivers, and we want you to feel empowered to ask questions, to explore options. So please feel free to ask questions at any time. Your University of Hawaii Cancer Center is definitely committed to saving lives in Hawaii and the Pacific. I'm sure you've heard that slogan several times. We are dedicated to addressing cancer disparities that are unique to our Hawaiian Islands and bringing world-class research and care right here to our community here in Hawaii. So let me emphasize, clinical trials actually have always been part of our mission. And here's a little did you know. Did you know that the UH Cancer Center already administers nearly 90% of cancer trials in Hawaii? We work with our cancer consortium partners, including Hawaii Pacific Health and the Queen's Health Systems, to administer these clinical trials. based here. But now, and here's the game changer, right? The new game changer, which we are expecting to transform cancer care across Hawaii, is our Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center. This is a center within a center. It is on the ever side of our building complex. And this really is a game changer because for the first time in Hawaii history, cancer patients will have the opportunity to participate in early phase clinical trials close to home, right here in Honolulu. So we're talking about phase 1 clinical trial treatments, the kind that Hawaii people have been known to travel to the mainland for. And actually, one of the prohibitive things about clinical trials in the mainland, as you know, is that that's not even within reach for a lot of people. It is so expensive to just live in Hawaii. So that's going to the mainland for clinical trial treatments, not even an option for a lot of folks. So to have this right here now in our backyard, huge game changer. We expect it to really affect the way we do patient care for cancer here in Hawaii. Now, today, our original plan was to offer you a tour to walk through at Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center. We are so very sorry that we have to postpone that walkthrough tour. Unfortunately, our center suffered some damage in those Kona low storms. So we apologize for that. However, toward the end of the program today, we have another video. And that video will show you a bit more of what the clinic looks like, and but also give you a sense of the human impact. I think you'll really enjoy it. Black Letter Group produced part of it. Thank you, Dana. Hi, Dana. And our videographer, where's Bo? And Bo Quizon, back over there also. Part of our communications team produced part of that video. So please stick around. Toward the end of the program, we will show that video as well, so you can get a better sense of what Ho'ola is all about. But I have talked enough, and without further ado, let's kind of dig in because we have a lot to cover. So at this time, it is now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. We are very honored to bring up Dr. Jared Akoba. He is an associate researcher in our cancer biology unit here at the UH Cancer Center, working in translational and clinical research. He is a medical oncologist, and here to give you a primer on Clinical Trials 101. Folks, please, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Akoba. Escape out of that. Thank you.
Morning, Jared Akoba, medical oncologist. As we mentioned, I work here at the UH Cancer Center. I'll be talking to you folks about clinical trials. So what are clinical trials? So clinical trials are studies that involve people. We do a lot of work at the UH Cancer Center in addition to that with test tubes, petri dishes, with mice. What we'll be talking about today are people studies. So clinical trials are studies that involve people. There's a lot of myths out there about clinical trials. Some of these you may have heard, that clinical trials may not be safe. There's actually a lot of processes that we go through to make sure that the quality of care people get on clinical trials is as good, if not higher, than standard care. That clinical trials are for people who have no options left. We actually offer clinical trials to people as their first treatment, to people to help their first treatment be more successful. So clinical trials are really for all people with cancer. And sometimes you may hear that clinical trials treat people like guinea pigs. And actually, clinical trials are ways that we can offer people the newest medications, novel therapies that we think will be more successful. Our goal is to develop treatments, to develop therapies that will help people to live better and to live longer. And it takes many steps, not unlike going from the original phone to what we now have as the iPhone. We go through many iterations. I'm old enough to have used not the first one, but everything since then. There's many types and phases of clinical trials. We have studies that look at designing new therapies, ways that we can diagnose cancer better, ways that we can screen for cancer. Things like pancreatic cancer, we want to be able to develop ways that we can find it earlier. prevention trials. We've had studies through the UH Cancer Center to prevent colorectal cancer, to prevent prostate cancer. Supportive care therapies, so for people who are undergoing chemotherapy, how do we reduce their nausea? And then healthcare delivery trials, so the process of people going through cancer care, how do we make it better for them? And the stages of clinical trials or phases of clinical trials, Thanks. So it ranges from what we call preclinical to phase 4. So preclinical is that first slide that I had shown you with the test tubes, the petri dishes, important work that we do here at the UH Cancer Center to develop new therapies, and then we take it into the clinic. So with phase 1 through phase 3, we start to add more people into these trials, and the time does take longer with the more people that are participating. And each phase has its own goal. So for phase 1, when we first start bringing the medication to people, we want to make sure that we're giving them the right dose. We're not giving them too much. And once we have that right dose, then we move on to phase 2. Right? Is the drug effective? Is it making the cancer smaller? Is it causing the cancer to disappear? Or maybe if it's not shrinking the cancer, is it keeping it stable? Is it keeping it from growing for several months? Once we can confirm that, yes, this medication is safe, it's also effective, then we want to take it into the clinic and compare it to our best treatment. So, taking it from what we have in the clinic now, our best therapy, can we make it even better? And that's what our phase 3 studies are. In running these trials, the UH Cancer Center, we have many partners. As we mentioned, the consortium includes Queens, Hawaii Pacific Health, Kuakini, Hilo Benioff Medical Center, Castle, as well as HMSA and then the medical school right across the way. And you've also heard about the Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center, ways that we can bring new medications. So early phase clinical trials are like the phase 1, phase 2 trials that I mentioned. Really the newest medications, can we get them here for our patients in Hawaii? And where do our trials come from? There's many different sources. So some of them are homegrown. These what we call investigator-initiated trials. So I have investigators like Jamie who develop trials specifically for the people of Hawaii. So she has a trial looking at exercise specific for people with breast cancer. We have studies that are sponsored by the National Cancer Institute. So Krista has a trial that she actually developed. She's the national leader for this, looking at advanced practice providers and their role in helping people who are on clinical trials. How do we educate them and mentor them so that across the US, these opportunities are available to people in their home community? And we also work with pharmaceutical companies. So Beth Nakasone, who many of you may know, she's a researcher here. One of the trials she has is looking at specific EGFR mutations for patients with lung cancer and using new medications to treat these people. The impact of the UH Cancer Center cannot be understated. Last year, we enrolled more than 1,500 people who participated on clinical trials. There are over 80 clinical trials available. As we mentioned, this is the vast majority of clinical trials that are available in Hawaii. Over 50 different healthcare providers across the state are participating, and we have clinical trial participants from just about all the major islands of Hawaii and also in Guam. So that's what I wanted to share with you this morning. We take questions, yeah, and I'm available if anyone has questions.
If you have questions, we'll come and run a mic over to you. Please don't be ashamed. And by the way, I forgot to say aloha to our online viewers. So if you're watching via Zoom, we appreciate your attending as well. Good morning. And you can submit questions in the Zoom chat, I believe. So please go ahead. We'll watch for that.
Yeah, thanks. Hi. You mentioned that during the clinical trials, the more people that are in the trial, the longer the trial takes. And I was wondering if you could clarify what that means exactly.
Excuse me. So say like phase 1 trials, typically we're talking about maybe dozens of people. And so we're usually able to complete those trials within several months. Whereas phase 3 trials, we might be looking at hundreds of people. And so just to enroll enough participants on the trial to answer the question, it takes longer.
So,
Yeah.
if it's
Yes, correct. Thank you. So to answer the questions for a phase 1 trial, finding the right dose for the right dose of medication, we need fewer people. But to make sure that it's better than what we're doing currently, we do need several more patients.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. If you have a question, guarantee somebody else has the same question as you. Krista, Cliff, do you want to give her one of the microphones? Thank you.
Just to maybe expand a little bit on what Jared said, sometimes it's the question we're asking too that takes a longer time to answer that question. So if we're looking at overall survival, we might have to follow patients for many, many years to see if we're looking at, when they're going, how long it takes for patients to recur, or if they ever recur. Sometimes we're looking at that. So sometimes you're followed for a long time in the trial, even after your treatment may be done. So that's another reason maybe it takes a longer time, not only how large it is, but what the questions are.
We have another question here.
Good morning. One of my questions is thank you. What's the criteria, and is there a limitation as far as participation?
So there are what we call eligibility criteria for each trial. It does vary. Usually, so if we're talking for medications, so new therapies, oftentimes you need to make sure that like your kidneys are working well, your liver is working well, so that the medications will clear out of the body in a predictable fashion. So you're right, sometimes if people have other diseases other than cancer, they may not be eligible for the trial. What was the second part? Oh.
How many participants do you allow?
Yeah, so each trial is designed, like Crystal was saying, to answer a question. And we want to make sure that we have enough people to answer the question, but not too many that we're potentially giving someone a treatment that's not going to be successful. So there is a number of people for each trial. We call the sample size that is designated.
Thank you. I'm wondering, for drug trials, which are not the only kind of clinical trials, but when it's drug trials, then is the goal to get FDA approval, and also sometimes those drugs work with one type of cancer, but then it's going to be tested for other types of cancer. So can you tell me that that drug companies are also funding this study? And is there always going to be where the drug is given to one group and the placebo is given to another group?
Sorry, what was the first part of the question? I remember that.
FDA approval.
Oh, yes. Yes, so the end goal would be FDA approval because we want to be able to give that medication to, if it's successful, right? We want to be able to give that medicine to everybody. I'm really having a hard time. And then what was the last part about?
If it's successful with one type of cancer, then it's going to be tested with other types of cancer. And then is a pharmaceutical company always going to ask for a blind study like a placebo and the drug itself?
So,
And go ahead.
yes, if the drug company can find a medication that is successful for one type of cancer, they usually will try to figure out if it works for others as well. So like one example would be immunotherapy. Some of you may have heard of immunotherapy medications that get your immune system stronger. Initially, it was found to be helpful for melanoma, a skin cancer. But now we use it for kidney cancer, lung cancer, certain colon cancers. And so we do try to figure out if it's successful for others. Regarding placebos, some trials may have placebos. Almost no trials for cancer only give a placebo. So for instance, say there's a new medication for pancreatic cancer. And there actually is one called daraxonrasib, which we hope will be FDA approved soon. The company is looking at chemotherapy, which is currently still our standard, plus a placebo, versus chemotherapy plus the daraxonrasib. So the patients will never get just the placebo. They'll always get some type of treatment, but they may, yeah. Oh.
They're asking where can they find the list of clinical trials?
So the UH Cancer website has the list of clinical trials that are available here in Hawaii through the center.
And if I may also add a very happy development, we are getting ready, it's not ready yet, so don't get too excited, but we're getting ready to launch an app so that you can search even more easily through your phone. Haven't announced that yet because it's not yet ready for public consumption, but will be soon. Just so you guys know.
Oh, thanks. So in the clinical trials, does everybody, I mean, I know it has to be kind of like standardized and stuff, but so does everybody have to get the same exact dose or whatever? Like, even though they're like different, body sizes or whatever, there's like, yeah, so.
So for drug trials, we do have a standard dose, but it's based on your height and weight. And so what we call the body surface area. So not everybody will get the exact same dose. It is tailored to your body size.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions, real briefly. Oh, Cliff, behind you. This is the fastest I've seen Cliff. Folks, this is Cliff Martin, our Associate Director for Administration. Please give him a hand. Not only does he do so much here, but he's running mics. So thank you.
Aloha. My question is, how do patients find out about clinical trials? Is it their kuleana to find it, or are their doctors supposed to tell them?
No, that's a very good question. I think we'll be talking about it as part of the panel, and then Krista will be covering it as well. I don't want to steal her thunder.
Suffice to say, though, if I may, I know we're going to talk about it more, but especially now that we are opening Ho'ola, the push to make more physicians aware of what clinical trials are available and what clinical trials are, all the parameters that Dr. Akoba talked about in terms of safety and just the availability that we have through the Cancer Center. Once we have that up and running, we'll definitely be pushing more education for our physicians. We do have a plan for that. I think we had one more. Yeah. Oh, yes, we have one more question from Zoom.
Online, the first question is, we hear a lot about clinical trials for drugs, but can you talk about the other types of clinical trials and give an example of two of what they might look like?
Yeah, so we have, what would be a good example? Okay, yeah, so We have many other types of clinical trials. One of the ones that we have open is called COSCOM, and what it's looking at is the financial toxicity. So we talk about toxicity of medications, but we know that cancer care also can be a financial burden. And so we have studies looking at that, assessing it, and ways that we might be able to intervene. So that's an example of another type of trial that's available. Yes.
So we do have a lot of supportive care and care delivery trials available through the Cancer Center because we have a large NCI grant that not only has a lot of treatment trials available, but also has a large focus on supportive care trials and care delivery trials.
Thank
I'd
you very
also
much.
like to bring to everyone's attention, CT Now clinical trials with Dr. Okado and the cancer research team, and they're right there in the back. Erin and me, they are there, and that is a non-therapeutic clinical trial that's going on right now.
CT Now.
CT Now. Thank you, everyone. These are great questions, and I'm sure, I know that there are some people who are getting ready to ask questions. We're trying to stay on schedule here. You can ask questions during your break as well. We are going to take a break for a few minutes because we're going to set up for our panel discussion. So feel free to get some fresh air. You can grab some snacks out there. Bathrooms, of course, are around the corner, and we will see you back here. Please, we'll start again at 9:45. Thank you very much. And please, a round of applause one more time for Dr. Okoba. Thank you so much. All right, folks. So, thanks for coming back. We are thrilled to introduce our next segment, which is our panel presentation. And this is where you will get to hear not only from some of our experts, but also from some patients and caregivers who have experience in clinical trials from their personal perspectives. Today, we are honored to introduce, I'm going to introduce the whole panel. We're going to start off with two cancer survivors who have been kind enough to join us today and share about their personal journeys. So please give a round of applause for Barbara Carlos. Barbara, raise your hand over here. And this is Kimberly Omine. Thank you, Kimberly. We are also privileged today to hear from two caregivers and their unique perspectives. So please join me in welcoming Dana Sinaha and Scott Meehan. Also in this panel discussion, you remember Dr. Jared Okoba here. And I want to introduce our moderator, who you also heard from earlier. This is Krista Braun-Inglis. And where'd she go? There she is, over on the end. Krista is Associate Researcher in Translational and Clinical Research here at the UH Cancer Center and an advanced practice provider. So take it away, Krista.
Thanks so much, Esme. And again, thanks everybody so much for coming today. It's so exciting to see so many people, and to Peter for everything you and your family have provided in this care community. It's so special. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask just initially for each of our panelists, not Dr. Okoba, but all of our patients and our caregivers, to just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in your cancer journey. I'm going to go ahead and start with Kim. Is that okay?
Barbara.
Oh, Barbara. Oh, I didn't get the memo. I'm sorry. Okay, I missed that part. No. Michelle feels Barbara, I have to listen to whatever Michelle says. Oh, slides. No, sorry.
15 summers ago, I was diagnosed with my first cancer, which was breast cancer. It was invasive lobular. Oh, okay. It was invasive lobular. It was a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And I don't know the metric system really well, but it was 10 centimeters, which I understand is kind of big. I had a mastectomy, and it had gone to my lymph nodes, so I had chemotherapy. I was enrolled in a clinical trial, mostly because my oncologist asked me if I would. I knew a little bit about clinical trials just because general knowledge, you see an article in the newspaper or magazine. Back then, people read newspapers and magazines. And I knew I would receive at least the basic standard of care. I knew I was not going to be treated like a guinea pig. And I thought it was important to be part of moving the ball forward, even though it was a little bit to do. I felt I owed it to the women who 20 or 30 years beforehand had said yes, because that was at a time when cancer was not discussed in polite society, and certainly breast cancer was not discussed, and they had said yes, and if they hadn't, my options and my outcome could have been very, very different. Yesterday was the 43rd birthday for my niece, and the statistic is 1 woman in 8. And who's to say if 20 years from now she is not that 1 woman in 8? And if I and other women do not say yes now, then what kind of options would she have 20 years from now if we don't say yes at this point in time? So I think it's important to do what little we can to help answer the questions, even if it's not the answer that the researchers expect to get. At least it's an answer, and they can come up with other questions, and other women or men, for depending on what the cancer is, what the study is, can help move the ball down the field. Eventually, we'll get there and we'll score a touchdown. That's basically, after my breast cancer, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And matter of fact, 6 years ago, I was going through chemotherapy again for ovarian cancer. Was not related to my breast cancer. They did genetic testing and found out, just luck of the draw, no relationship between the two. And I've had all sorts of skin cancers removed. Every 6 months I go in and they find some new little thing growing on me, or sometimes it has friends, and they take it off or zap it off, whatever. My family has a history of melanoma. My sister's had it 3 times. I'm sure I'll get there eventually. Although I don't know, I stay out of the sun a lot, so that's not an issue for me. But that was what my cancer experience has been so far. I'm sure cancer is not done with me, but that's okay. I have a good cancer team, and we'll continue to slay the dragon whenever it rears its ugly head.
Thanks, Barbara. That was really helpful introduction to your cancer journey, and wow, all that you haven't just dealt with, one cancer, you've dealt with several cancers, and you're definitely inspiration to all of us. Thank you. I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to have Kim share about her journey.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Kim Omini here, 2024. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, Peter. Thank you, Susan, for this wonderful program. So my heart goes out to you. So I wanted to introduce you to my family, my Ohana. 2024, I was diagnosed with Philadelphia B positive ALL. What is it? It's a blood cancer. How did I find out about it? Well, we go into the initial of having signs and symptoms, phase 1, yeah? So therefore, they were able to pinpoint my leukemia to a B abnormality by doing biomarker testing that showed clear clarity that I had a specific blood cancer. The oncologist and the whole entourage entered to my room I would have at least 5 doctors into my room explaining that I was a candidate for this clinical trial that is offered at the Hawaii Pacific Health. And my options were there, either or, to do the clinical or do chemo as planned. I said, why not? I might be that step for a future cure. Why not? Time ticks when we are diagnosed. So I opted into the clinical trial, and 2024, my initial phase, and doing the multiple treatment as needed, following the daily care that is critical, and being really positive and making sure your environment is there for your healing. It was not easy, but clinical trial is important. So 1 step forward instead of 4 step back. I chose to do the clinical trial. And I'm almost done. I have 1 more intrathecal, which is a spinal chemo. It's in the clinical trial regimen. My status right now, I'm in remission ×5. So I share my journey because clinical trial does save. I'm here. That's my journey. So these are my abnormality tests. Biomarker testings are specific tests to do while you're being diagnosed. On the far left, you had a bone biopsy. Initially was sky high. To the far right, you have blood tests. My white blood cells was sky high. And in the middle, it will be spinal tests, fluid, sky high. With these biomarkers, so critical to base your clinical trials treatment. Once I was given the clinical trial treatment, as you can see, my numbers plunged immediately. So obviously in the middle, that's our testing that they do while you're in the hospital, because sometimes certain medication does affect your brain cognitively wise. So they have to reassess, making sure, blah, blah, blah. And what was it? The state animal is our monk seal. Well, the state animal is the monkey. So therefore, the red flaggers were there. Based on that, they can readjust the clinical trial treatment. And so the next picture is my support group. I was advised to use ice packs prior to a certain medication. Why? To chill my hand, I don't have neuropathy, deadening or numbing of your nerve endings. I did it. Altai, this guy had the same diagnosis as me. He works at Hilo Benioff Medical Center. Same diagnosis, same treatment. He was my first support. He told me what's gonna happen, what to expect. Yes, Hilo Medical Center Benioff, he works there. And he is in remission ×4 years. Same treatment, same doctor, same treatment. The next one is my crew, Dr. Bodhi and Tamami. Tamami, yeah.
Research nurse.
You know, it's critical. When you go through your clinical trial, know your care team. Know them as your family. They are your spine. And then my last, final house chemo treatment, ringing of that bell. Ringing of that bell. I rang it loud and proud. And then my last slide. This is a support group. Know your support group. No one should ever journey through this trial and tribulation. Whatever cancer you have, never do this alone. Find your support. Maybe one, harness that. Maybe more. So Blood Cancer Unite, we have it here. My cancer group, right up in the middle. They were with me when I needed to make a decision to do stem cell treatment. My 4th phase was initial, it went really well. The next phase was to go off island. Seattle to be exact. I lined everything up. The cost was there, over $1 million.
Thank you, Kim. I really do appreciate your sharing of your experience, and you almost are empowering everybody in this room right now, and that's something we're going to talk more about when I give a presentation at the end. But you've laid such an amazing, road for my presentation here, and thank you so much for sharing so much about your journey. Yeah, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to, not only are we highlighting our patients that have participated in clinical trials, we're also highlighting a couple of caregivers that have participated with their significant others in clinical trials. And it is really talking about the importance of the caregiver, of your support team, and how they play an integral role. So, Dana.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Peter, and thank you to Susan for the work they did in creating this amazing community. My name is Dana Sanaha. My husband, Bobby, was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer in November 2022. At the time, our 2 sons were 8 and 5. So after we found out what was going on, we gathered ourselves up and we decided we were going to throw everything we had at getting him better. We knew what the statistics were, and we knew that every patient is different. So we would go anywhere, we would do anything to get him better. So initially, we elected to stay here in Hawaii. He underwent chemotherapy. Eventually, it was 33 weeks total of chemotherapy, first on FOLFIRINOX, then Gemabrax, for anyone who's familiar. And that whole time, So this was right before he was diagnosed. We literally were the healthiest we had ever been in our entire lives, thriving. And he started chemotherapy, and if you see on the bottom, there's a running thing with his picture. Throughout his entire journey, he was running 5K or walking if he needed to, 4 to 5 times a week. He was strength training. He was doing everything he could to stay as strong as he could, because we knew that that was important for him being able to withstand the chemotherapy. Unfortunately, while the chemo seemed to keep it at bay, it didn't do enough to shrink it. But we were able to find a surgeon at USC Keck School of Medicine who thought that he'd be able to resect the tumor and do all the other things that he needed to do to rebuild that vasculature that would have to be removed. But unfortunately, about an hour or 2 into surgery, they discovered that the cancer had spread, and we had to abort the surgery, which led us to our clinical trial journey. So Bobby and I came home, and we sat here in this room at a clinical trials event. And at the time, there wasn't anything here locally in Hawaii for us. And so we started our search. We ended up at a clinical trial at Cedars-Sinai in LA. And we didn't know what the results would be, and we weren't willing to leave the boys behind. So thankfully, my parents agreed to move up with us. So we packed up our whole family. We rented a house in LA, and we knew we would be there for at least 2 months, with the possibility of being able to come home after and commute back and forth for treatment. Unfortunately, the treatment that clinical trial was not successful. And by the end of our stay in LA, Bobby was pretty sick. But it opened the door to our miracle at the time. We had been hearing about this possible treatment coming out of Revolution Medicine in the Bay Area. And nearing the end of Bobby's first clinical trial, we found out that they were launching that trial. And our best bet for getting in was San Antonio, Texas. We flew down there. Bobby was hurting the whole way down, but we got down there and they had a slot for him. So we packed up our family again. We moved to San Antonio. And that drug was a miracle. Within 24 hours of the first day of treatment, Bobby cut his pain meds. Wait here, sorry. So this, if you see in the top corner of him sleeping in bed with my son, that was when we first arrived in San Antonio. And that was kind of how he was. He was struggling. We went to Next Oncology. You can see his very first day of treatment. It's a 12-hour day, by the way, your first day. And they're running labs every hour. I mean, there are multiple timers set. It's pretty intense. But if you see this bottom picture of us with the red tunnel, that was day 3 of this clinical trial. We walked 3 miles on the San Antonio Riverwalk, followed by a visit from his family from LA. There's a picture in the top corner of some of the side effects, but also you can just see, I mean, it really was a miracle. By the time we were done with that first round of treatment, he was helping pack up the van with 50-pound boxes to come home. And we ended up commuting. I know, I'll finish really quick. Commuting back and forth between here and San Antonio over the next several months before, unfortunately, the cancer mutated and started evading treatment. But that drug, which was mentioned before, we'll talk about a little more later, but it gave us 10 more amazing months with my husband, and we wouldn't have had them otherwise. So thank you.
Dana, thank you so much for sharing your story and really giving a picture of what you need to do, you know, to get to an early phase trial. So we will get back to that for sure, and want to talk about actually where that drug has come since then. So, Scott.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Scott, and I want to introduce you to my wife, Donna. I want you to get to know Donna, and I want you to get to know our love story while I tell our cancer story, which I don't do very often. Donna was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in September of 2021. And when we first met with an oncologist, he sort of laid out the standard of care, and it sounded horrible. It really did. And Donna was like, I don't want to do this. She said, what I would like to do is immunotherapy. I really think that my body is strong enough that it can, you know, I can beat this with a little boost. So the doctor looked at her and said, well, immunotherapy is still experimental and you really would need to be in a clinical trial. And we don't have anything like that in Hawaii right now. So he literally said you'd have a much better shot if you went to the mainland, for example, Los Angeles. And we looked at each other and said, okay, we're going to the mainland, we're going. So we did. And I feel really, really lucky that we could just up and go. I work in the film industry. I'm a production designer. And so I basically freelance, and I wasn't working at the time. So we just up and went. We went to Los Angeles. We got into City of Hope and immediately got into a clinical trial with immunotherapy. She got her dream. So unfortunately, it was rough. She was stage 4. She was quite advanced by the time they diagnosed it. And she got real weak real fast and eventually had to bow out of the study. But she felt really proud that her participation in the study and the data that was collected from her being in that trial, she knew that that would make a difference for people in the future. So she really was at peace with coming out of the trial, but she wasn't giving up. She never gave up hope. We were at the City of Hope, and she had full confidence that she could beat this. So we were doing chemo, and it was rough on her, but she hung in there and she fought. And I believe that she never realized that she was going to die. I really don't, and I didn't either until the last couple of days. And she did. She passed 4 years ago yesterday, April 17th. The other thing that she knew all through the trial and her journey, she really had that hope. She always told people that this is my cancer, this is my body. I'm not a statistic, and if there is a 1% chance of survival, why can't I be that 1%? And she completely believed that. So, and I'm really grateful and really proud of her that we went through the journey in that way. And I got to say, the irony of the ho'ola here is, for me personally, the last show I did, the last project I did before we went to Los Angeles was a Disney TV show called Doogie Kamialoha MD. And I was a production designer on that. And the last set that I designed and built, and the last set that she got to visit before we left, was our hospital set that we built in the Eva wing here at the Cancer Center. And that is where the ho'ola is. Ho'ola? Did I say that right? It's where it is now. And Donna actually stood in the space where it is now, giving patients an opportunity to participate in a clinical trial and potentially save their life. She didn't have that opportunity. We had to leave, and Donna never came back home. Once we left, that was it. So that's our story.
It's a beautiful story, actually,
Thank you.
Scott. And first of all, thanks to all of the panelists for providing the slides and the pictures. As I'm watching yours, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then I realize what you do. So, you know, you're a professional, but that is just, wow, what a gift to be able to do that and show her life and share it with us.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yeah. Thanks to all of our panelists. I really appreciated hearing all of your stories. And we've heard, you know, from 2 patients that were actually able to be involved in clinical trials here in Hawaii, and 2 of you that had to, you know, go away to the mainland to access early phase clinical trials. I'd like to ask, you know, because we know we meet challenges in both in the travel in the early phase, but also, you know, in the later phase. Can someone speak to maybe some of the challenges you felt being in a trial? I mean, you all, like, you know, have expressed how fortunate you were to be able to access this trial and be in it, but maybe give the audience some example of what may have been challenging to actually be in the trial. If nothing, that's great, but Kim, do you want to start?
So clinical trials was obviously new for me, so you have to be an advocate for yourself, going out, asking your doctor 1,000,001 question, because sometimes the dumbest question will come back to the smartest answer. So you really have to push yourself out there and write the questions that is on the top of your brain. Document, fall back on, get up.
Thank you. Barbara, did you have any challenges while you were, you know, involved in the trial? Did you find like the schedule rigorous, you know, the extra questions, maybe sometimes there's extra surveys, extra patient-reported outcomes that are asked of you?
I didn't find that it was challenging. I found cancer challenging. There were a few extra questionnaires, as you mentioned, that I had to fill out for data for involved in the study. but there was lab work, but there was lab work involved anyway for to check and see how my body was reacting to the chemo. It basically didn't like it, and it really didn't like it, and it really, really, really didn't like it, and it kept telling me how much it didn't like being poisoned. But no extraordinary challenges, and other than chemo is no fun.
Yep, that is very true. Good to hear. Yeah, Kim, you have something to add?
Yeah, so on a clinical trial initial, you'll have your entourage of people coming into your room. That's a time that you should just plow the questions and ask. Yes, it's a paper process, but for the purpose of. And through the clinical trial, it was a clear, steady state. Yeah. And the more you ask a question, the better the outcome. So it was okay with me.
Thank you. Yeah. Dana, you mentioned, that long day, which is very typical of an early phase clinical trial for, initially. So can you talk about that?
Or so Bobby, the 2 trials he was on, they were both phase 1 clinical trials. And when you consent, that means you agree to participate. They give you the schedule and what it's going to look like, particularly for that first round. Because they're testing dose and safety and efficacy, you're going to be there are long days, and long days are like 12, 13-hour days, because you're there and they're going to administer the medicine. They're going to be doing EKGs and blood pressure, blood tests. I think on the next trial, our nurse had about 6 different timers running, because you have to do them at specific times. You have to run these tests at specific times. There are some days that are shorter, some days that are longer, but especially during that first round, you're going in pretty often. For us, because RMC 6236 was an oral pill, after that first round that was very successful, we were able to come home, but then we were traveling. So the first couple months, we were gone for 11 days, home for 10 days, back and forth. And then as the trial went on, we were able to just go up. A couple times Bobby went on his own, and they were 72-hour turnarounds. So fly into San Antonio, spend half a day in the clinic, hop on a plane, and get back here. And he was healthy enough to do it. But yeah, there's a lot of cost involved. If you have kids, depending, like our kids were young and we had help, so we were able to bring them up and keep up with their schooling with the help of my parents. In fact, my 2 boys, I think they still look back on it as a 3-month vacation. They had a fabulous time.
That's great that they're able to look back on that. And
Yeah,
create
lot
that
of
environment.
amazing memories, a lot of really good memories.
Scott, knowing that you had a similar travel experience, and can you just talk about some of
and
the
I want to tie something that Dana said into what Kim said. The timing, because it's a clinical trial, everything has to be done just so. And so talking about the timers, and what Kim said about being a self-advocate, that is so important. Donna was getting her trial treatment was by infusion. So we went to an infusion center at the City of Hope, and which was not just for trials, it was all kinds of people, getting cancer treatments, getting chemo. And so the people that were operating the site were dealing with all these people. So I'm the timer, and I know that it has to be on. So at one point I was freaking out. I'm like, I need somebody in here. We need to start the next round. And they're like, we got it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. She's on a trial. This has to happen. And the other thing is, somebody asked earlier about the parameters. That was tough, and because Donna was late stage, and she was very weak. Her blood work, her counts, her chemistry, her bilirubin numbers from her liver, the platelet numbers, everything had to be within certain parameters, or she couldn't do the next session, the next phase. So that became really challenging, and the weaker she got, the more challenging that was, which is why eventually we had to bow out. But she was actually, like I said, she was at peace with that. And at that point, she knew that her treatment could be more customized for her. It didn't have to be any specific thing to fall into the parameters of the trial. So it could be a little gentler on her, and it wasn't. But that was our experience.
Well, I was just going to say one other thing. With any treatment for cancer, I think there are side effects. And Bobby had them. You know, when they tell you one of the major side effects is a rash, we're like, yeah, it's a rash. Like, how bad can it be? It was bad. It was bad. But we kept telling ourselves, cancer is worse. The side effects of chemo are just as bad, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
And thank you for saying that. And as I mentioned, we mentioned earlier that we have a lot of trials looking at how to minimize the side effects of treatment. So always keep that in mind as well. Dr. Okoba, I wanted to really touch on something that a lot of the different panelists had said is the schedules of, the trials, and kind of if you could explain to maybe why like an early phase trial has like a 12-hour day, and then maybe a phase 3 trial, maybe, it's just you're coming in like your regular treatment, but maybe also how important it is to keep on that schedule and why. I asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point, right? The 12-hour day for the phase 1 is because the main goal is to make sure that the medication is safe, right? So they're checking blood at each time point to see what its impact is on the body, how well the body is able to clear it. And because Bobby went through that in phase 1, in phase 3, people don't have to do that, right? They've established the safety of the medication. And so now anyone else who gets this medication, the daraxonrasib, we know how to better manage it. And even things like the rash, right, that Dana mentioned, there are better ways to control it because of what Bobby has gone through.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the audience, and I do think we have a few questions online that we're going to not forget about our online participants. So is someone going to read out the question?
The question was, how does one pay for participation in a clinical trial?
Dana, you want to take that?
Okay, so for clinical trials, the trial drug, anything that is required specifically for the trial is generally paid by the trial sponsor. So all the drugs, that kind of thing. Any standard treatment, like monthly scans, things like that would need to be covered by your insurance. And depending on your insurance plan, travel is generally paid out of pocket. So all of Bobby's scans were covered under insurance, but any hospital stays, he did have one in San Antonio near the end, that was all insurance, and all our travel and hotels and rentals were all out of pocket.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add to that? Kim? Yeah.
So I was supposed to do the stem cell, but I opted out because of the cost and the distance, and somebody needed to be there for the 3 months duration. I have 2 child, and my husband had to watch them. So knowing your medical coverage, going to your medical department and asking question. So in regards to hers, yes, my clinical trial was covered, as well as my target pill is covered. The other things that is typical flu-like symptoms, that's your PCP. That will be out of your pocket. But as for my trial, it is covered.
So the clinical trials are covered, by your insurance. But as Dana said, a lot of times the travel costs are not covered. I have seen in situations where they are. We actually have a program here called the Friends of the Cancer Center for Neighbor Island patients. If they want to participate in a clinical trial, that we actually cover their cost of travel over. So we're trying to do things here at the Cancer Center too. We don't have any kind of fund set up to go to the mainland, unfortunately, but the actual treatment is covered. And there's always an analysis that's done of every trial of like what needs to be covered by the sponsor and what can be covered as your standard of care, as Dana mentioned, like your scans. Now, if the scans are more often than the standard of care, then a lot of times the sponsor will cover what is not standard of care.
Also, check with your put it out. American Cancer Society has a transportation program for people in Hawaii. And so when I used to work there, they used to have an allocation per patient. So it would be like one mainland trip and several neighbor island trips. And so do inquire with your resources like American Cancer Society or Blood Cancer Unite or other, us too, because many of them do have funding programs for specific things. Sometimes it's for things like daily life kind of things, like rent, and sometimes it's your treatment related things like transportation. So don't forget to reach out there too.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, there are a lot of resources out there. They're not always as obvious. We're trying to help provide these. We have handouts, to all the different resources that we have in terms of clinical trials and other supports we have in the community. So please, go to the back before you leave and get those resources. I'm going to ask for any questions in the audience here. I saw a few hands go up earlier, but maybe the question was answered. I got another online. 2, okay. We'll take our online.
You mentioned trials being sponsored. Are there trials that are not sponsored? And would the patient being responsible for costs, or does the participating hospital cover it?
Jared, do you want to take that?
So all trials will have a sponsor, whether it be a pharmaceutical company or like the National Cancer Institute, because there are going to be treatments or tests that are not covered by standard insurance.
Yep, that's a pretty straightforward answer. So yes, all trials will have a sponsor. There's a budget that goes along with pretty much any trial that you do, even if it's a non-treatment trial, because there are costs to the trial. And we don't want to, there should not be any cost for the actual trial put on to the participant in the trial. You want to take the third? Should we take the third? And then I have a few more questions.
Is it better for the oncologist to recommend the clinical trial, or does the individual need to pursue clinical trials on their own?
Anybody? Dana? Or Barbara? Sorry.
Well, when I got cancer the second time, I went online looking for a clinical trial that would work for my ovarian cancer. And I thought I found one, but I had a question about something. So I contacted my oncologist, and she said, no, that one won't work for you because of the drugs I had with my breast cancer. And she said, because of those drugs, you're not going to be able to participate in drug trials. Apparently, it screws up the works or something anyway. So I couldn't do one. But I would gladly do another clinical trial. I guess not a drug one, because I'm not a candidate for that, but I hear Krista's doing, or somebody's doing something about, Jamie Fukui is doing something about exercise and everything. So next time I get cancer, because I'm sure I'll get it again sometime in the future, I'll have to look for something that's not drug related so I can participate at the outset and do something that's not drug related and help move the ball further along. Yeah, so, yeah.
Thanks, Barbara. I appreciate that answer.
Why not?
Yeah.
No.
All types of.
Why not? Research needs data. You know, if I can help give you some data, you can do something with it.
You're right.
I got to say, to speak to that question again, and I'm sure it varies depending on who your oncologist is, where you're at, what facility you're at. But going back to what Kim said about self-advocacy, our oncologist said, we don't have anything like that here. That was it. That was the end of the story. So it was up to us. And as you guys have to know, when you're dropped into this world, not knowing anything about cancer or what you're in for, you're kind of on your own to figure it out, which is why this program, this care community is, Peter and Susan, is so amazing. It's such a great resource for anybody who's facing these challenges. We had nothing like that then, so I'm really excited and proud of this group for what they're doing and what they've put together and what they're supporting. So thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Dana?
So there are so many trials going on, and I'm going to echo Scott that this cancer care community is an amazing resource right here at home. But you do have to be your own advocate because no one doctor is going to know about every clinical trial. And the eligibility criteria are very precise. So some resources, there's a website called clinicaltrials.org, which Chris is going to talk about. But I also know that a lot of the nonprofits, for example, for pancreatic cancer, PanCan, they have something called a clinical trial navigator. And that person, you fill out a form, you tell them all the information about your cancer biology, the test results, and they're going to help you filter the available trials to give you a list of things that you might be able to qualify for that you can then take to your oncologist and talk to them about. You can reach out to the trial directors to find out if you do qualify for that. So there are resources out there. I think there are some here at the Cancer Center as well that'll help you sort through the enormous volume. And they're going to take things into consideration like how far are you willing to travel, how healthy are you, things like that, that'll help filter it out.
Thanks for that example, Dana. Really appreciate it. Jared, there were some questions that came up. We had a lot of the registrants sent in questions early. And I think a big question I saw show up a few times is, will I have the same doctor if I go into a clinical trial? Can you speak to that?
So oftentimes you will, depending on what type of trial it is and if your physician is participating, specifically talking about trials in Hawaii. There may be times when, like if there's a trial on the mainland, you'll go to the mainland, and while you're there, you'll be under the care primarily of the mainland doctor, but when you come back home, your home oncologist will help out as well. When Ho'ola is kind of up and running as we anticipate, then it'll likely be, again, a collaboration similar to going to the mainland, where you might see me in the clinic, and then you'll come to Ho'ola and see a physician here, and it'll be a collaboration between the two.
Thank you. Appreciate that, because I think that does get blurry sometimes. And then what can you do as the oncologist here? And I think there's a lot of questions if someone's going to the mainland or someone's getting treated, outside of the trial, or then they go into a trial. I mean, we do have to follow the protocol once you're enrolled in the trial, but because again, you want to know the data, and the quality of the data is good to be able to bring a new treatment or a new intervention, to be standard of care to market, right? Like if you don't know everybody, got scanned at 3 months and then at 6 months, how do we know how people are progressing or responding to the treatment? And a lot of times may want to do things at the same center too, to have the same people reading the scans, measuring tumors, those types of things. Even though that's really helpful for data quality, we are trying to come up with different ways to do things a little bit differently. There's something called decentralized trials that people have been working on, because we do see, not only in Hawaii, but other communities across the mainland, where it's really difficult for people to get access to clinical trials. So there's a big movement to try to look at how can we, expand trials, beyond some of these larger centers so patients can participate in them as well. So, Kim, did you want to? Yeah.
So it's like rain, right? You have an umbrella, there's so much rain. I put my umbrella up, there's a lot of spokes. That's my resources that I went through to find out, is the clinical trial, my next phase of treatment, better for me up in the mainland? So searching high and lows of getting that information was critical. I opted out. Why not here, right? Why do I have to go farther than far when the treatment is here? This is here. This is now. So no more treatment in the mainland. If it ever comes back for me, I'm here. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Kim. Any questions? Karen, yes.
This is for these wonderful caregivers. I know with clinical trials and the focus on the patient and the focus on the data and the focus on the technology and the focus on the precision, did you feel as a caregiver that you were invited into the care of your loved one at the time they were going? So you had mentioned, you were the timer, and did you find in these clinical trials, because I think it's as important, I would think, that when your loved one is going this, you want the best for them, and how can you help them? So did you feel welcomed as a participant in the clinical trial in support of your spouses?
I felt not only welcomed, but I took on a lot of the brunt of it. I mean, I was literally Donna's caregiver 24/7. And I can't remember exactly. It was probably after she had exited the trial, but there were a lot of that. Well, maybe not. No, at the beginning, she had, because the cancer had spread to her liver, so her bilirubin numbers were elevated. She had to have a couple of stents put in at the beginning. Eventually, she had 2 drains put in. So it was up to me to monitor and flush and change the drain. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of that stuff. She had ascites, which was towards the end. So she had a catheter put in. So it was up to me at home. When I found out that I had to do this at home on my own, we had a pump, like a vacuum Plurex, right? And it has to be completely sterile. For the first time I did it, I was freaked out. But yeah, I had to do a lot of this. I had to pump her stomach. I had to clean the drains. So I was very much a part of that caregiving role.
Thank you. I know it was not easy.
So my experience was different from Scott's, because honestly, until really, and Dr. Koba knows, so really that last week, Bobby was, he owned a business, which is responsible for some of the videos you'll see. But he was running his business. I was working remotely, and we just did everything together. I went to all his visits. We were friends with all the nurses, especially down in Texas. We got to know everybody. We knew the patients who were on the same schedule as us. I would go get people warm blankets and bring in donuts for everybody. And it really was a community. The doctors, the trial doctors, were really great. If we were here and he was having more rash, they were helping us get in. The rash got really bad when we were up there. They somehow fast-tracked us into a dermatologist that day. They made it happen. So they were really wonderful. But again, Bobby was not typical, I think. So he was very strong. We were, he was up and very independent for most of it. So I was more of a partner. And I handled all the details so he could focus on the stuff, all the medical records, all the insurance, all that stuff I handled so that he could focus on his health and the boys and spending time like that. But we had a good support system, and the medical staff has always been wonderful at helping me to be a part of what was going on.
Thanks, Dana. Thanks for sharing that. We can take one or two more questions. We have one online? The online is popular over there. They're very active. Yes.
I have insurance through Kaiser. I noticed that Kaiser was not one of the Cancer Center participants. How does that affect clinical trials participation?
Oh, Barbara. This is well, I could add to it, but I want you to start because you're a Kaiser member.
Okay, yeah, I'm Kaiser, and it was my oncologist who was the principal investigator for a clinical trial that was being run through Kaiser, who asked me to consider, and I immediately said yes. And at the time, Krista was at Kaiser, and she was one of the persons who was involved in the clinical trial and part of my care team. Matter of fact, when I was commenting to her just earlier today, on one of my visits, I think it was after my second or third chemo treatment, she opened the door to the exam room, and from several feet away, she said, "Oh, looks like you have a little bit of lymphedema going on there." She spotted, I did not know I had lymphedema. I had a mastectomy, and I had lymphedema in my affected arm, and I didn't even know it, but she spotted it from several feet away. And we got going on getting rid of my lymphedema. It took a few weeks, but got rid of it. So Kaiser does do some clinical trials. They're not part of the consortium that involves the UH Cancer Center, but they do have clinical trials. So if you are a Kaiser member, it would be an option. I don't know if it would be some of the same kinds of clinical trials or separate ones or whatever, but it is an option. Yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, just to add to that a bit, Kaiser does have clinical trials. Their umbrella, they fall under a larger umbrella grant of the whole Kaiser system. So that's why, they're not a direct partner with University of Hawaii Cancer Center, but they absolutely do offer clinical trials. And there's an excellent oncology team there that are very, proactive about clinical trials, as Barbara mentioned.
And since the question about costs were raised, I will say that the cost that I paid, I only paid what my normal fee was for my office visit and my normal fee for labs and whatnot. And in fact, the clinical trial even paid for my parking because I was at Moanalua, and Moanalua charges for parking, and some of the clinics don't charge for parking.
That's true.
I had my $3 parking fee was paid, yeah.
That is true. Sometimes there's extra, resources to support you through the trial and parking.
It didn't cost me anything extra.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing, Barbara. Are we out of time?
I think we are at the perfect point to make a pivot. So I know everyone has got a lot of questions, and we can certainly after the program is over, if you have more questions, I know our panel, many of our panelists will still be here. But before we segue, we wanted to say express appreciation one more time for all of our panelists. So Dr. Acoba, Scott, Dana, Barbara, Kimberly, and our moderator Krista. Thank you very much. And so we're going to segue, and so our panelists can come down, and Krista is going to talk to us. Actually, we've had a lot of conversation today about being your own self-advocate and being empowered in this process. So today, Krista is going to be talking about empowerment in your participation in clinical trials.
So much as me. So I'm going to close out the formal portion of the program talking about empowerment and participating in clinical trials. And I think we actually, our panel laid a great foundation for me to talk about this right now. So it may be some things that we've hit on, but the first thing I learned when I went to nursing school is adult learning principle. And the most important thing about adult learning principle is we say it over and over. So it takes us a while as adults. I think it takes my kids a while too, but anyway, let's go ahead and talk about some of these key points. So I think we're trying to just get rid of that myth that clinical trials are a last resort, right? So and they're not available upfront for your treatment. But truly, when you are diagnosed, maybe even before you're diagnosed, or just because we talked about cancer screening trials, you can even talk to your primary care provider about clinical trials. But definitely, if you do have a cancer diagnosis, it's really important you ask your clinical team up front about what available clinical trials there are. And again, they're not a last resort, and they're available through all stages of your cancer journey. And and there's different trials at different phases, and there are a lot of trials we do have here in Hawaii, and they're not all treatment trials, right? We talked about these supportive care and these care delivery trials, and again, in general, eligibility is based on your tumor type. The characteristics of your tumor. My primary practice is in breast cancer, so sometimes we might have, I'm going to do this. Sometimes we might have, I'm a walker, so so sometimes we might have trials for like a triple negative breast cancer versus a HER2 positive breast cancer, and sometimes we have a broad trial for all types of this of one cancer. But a lot of times it is based on the tumor characteristics, the stage of your cancer, at what types of treatments you've had prior, or is this your first treatment? So lots of different things. And I think we also talked about maybe other illnesses that you have, how healthy you are. We are really looking at broadening eligibility criteria. That's another thing we've been looking at within the clinical trials world of maybe we can broaden the eligibility criteria, because sometimes we have such strict eligibility criteria that it knocks people out. A lot of times, for years, we used to say we weren't going to enroll anybody over the age of 70 in a clinical trial, and that those times have changed because we recognize that so many people are diagnosed beyond the age of 70. So trying to get more older adults into clinical trials is a big initiative right now too. And as we mentioned, the supportive care and the care delivery trials that we have available. And again, we have examples in the back. So don't think just because, I have a stage 1 or I have a stage 4 or I've had 5 treatments that you wouldn't be eligible for a clinical trial. Or even going back the next time you see your oncology team and asking them now after you've come today and learned more about clinical trials. Actually, Dr. Jamie Fukui, who I practiced with for a long time, she taught me a great thing to always in our notes with every patient we see, we kind of just have a problem. We have a problem list, like your diagnosis is, breast cancer, right? You're having insomnia, but then we always have a problem, clinical trials. Now, it's not a problem, but it just always makes us think about what potential trials could be available for our patient. Like maybe there's not one available now, but maybe then 6 months down the line, something comes up and something's, available for them. So keep that questioning about clinical trials, and it's just not a one and done. How do you find, so these are tools, these are general tools that we have. We also have local line here that I don't have on here, but it's in the back. So we do have a cancer line here, and it's 1-808-586-5854. So probably most of you can't write that down. And I didn't put it up here because I was thinking more general, knowing that we were going to have the handouts here. But there are these tools out there, and Dana gave an example about, pancreatic specific tool that's out there. I know not everybody's that savvy, with the internet, but there's a lot of ways just to, you can actually just Google different things now and come up with different resources as well. But you're old school, you want to pick up a phone and call, we have a line here where you can call and we could help you to navigate and let you know what is here. And then hopefully if you're interested in going or something's not available here for you, getting you connected with the proper resources for the mainland. And again, that's, with our hope, not with our hope, with our plan of, the early phase, opening the early phase, that we're going to have more of the early phase options for patients here, and you wouldn't have to travel. But it is a work in progress, and we're very close to getting this going. And this has actually been a work in progress for many years, so it's very exciting. So navigating the enrollment process. And I almost want to bring maybe Dana back up here. So I think, again, going back to those, so when we talk about the earlier phase trials, because again, we're looking at dose, safety, all of those things, there's a lot of different steps in those trials to get you enrolled. So I think it's really important to understand there may be multiple steps in getting it, and that's for the safety of the patient. Right? Everything that we do in the context of a clinical trial, when you think, oh, this is rigorous, oh, they want me to come back, oh, it really has to do with the safety and the coordination and the importance of the data quality, but most importantly, that we treat you safely, okay? And so that's why a lot of times there's pre-screening, right? It's like, I might say, for example, I have somebody that I did just send to the mainland, and she's going to explore a trial for herself, but it looks right now like she potentially is available for a trial at this center. But again, she's in that kind of pre-screening phase, and they still needed to see her. And then she may consent. It looks like everything is good. But then again, there's more screening tests. I can think about a patient that we consented for a local trial here, like 6 months ago, and then we did a blood test, and her liver function was not, in the parameters that she needed. So we needed to withdraw her from the trial. So again, there's these screening tests, and again, it goes all because of the safety. And then once you get enrolled, there is a schedule that is an expectation that you would follow as a participant of the trial. So you're a lot of times we have great coordinators we work with that help us, to coordinate these tests, these visits, all of these different things. But that is something that patients do and caregivers need to understand. That's going to be a process of the trial. Some trials are a bit more lenient, like when we talk about, financial navigation trial, that's a very lenient, but then when we talk about an early phase treatment trial, a lot more stricter. So, again, you need to understand, prepare for what you are signing up for. Informed consent is always voluntary. Anytime I have somebody sign an informed consent, I always remind them that they can withdraw their consent at any time. We can take them off the trial at any time. It's totally voluntary to be a participant in the trial. Okay, so this is something we really did touch on already, but these are all things you really do want to think about, right? The frequent and longer visits that can happen, okay? We talked about those 12-hour days for those early phase. Again, they're drawing blood to make sure the levels of the drug, to make sure they're checking your labs, to make sure it's safety. It's all about safety, in terms of travel. Even traveling sometimes, from Waianae into town, right? It's thinking about, and oh God, I this is a longer treatment, so I need you to be at the clinic at 7:30, and then you're thinking like, oh, okay, I gotta leave 5:30, so these are all things. Why can't you guys treat me at 10? Well, I can't treat you at 10 because the treatment's longer, and all of these things, and we gotta draw blood on, so these are all logistics, right? We talked about the insurance, versus out-of-pocket out-of-pocket expenses already. In general, no more cost. It should not be any more costs for the treatment, right? You should not be any more costs. Okay, when you are traveling, there's those logistics and there can be added expenses. And hopefully, again, with us being able to offer more trials here, we already offer a lot, just not in the early phase setting. We'll be able to help our Hawaii residents. Okay, and this is really important, and I don't know if it was Dana or Scott or no, actually it was Kim who showed your whole family, talking about your decision to enroll in the clinical trial, and then just how important it is, to bring your people, right? Whether it be your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, whoever is involved in your care and in your circle, and talk to them and make sure that you understand what is all involved in this, the risks, the potential benefits, again, the schedules. I can't express that enough, because people do, they're really excited about enrolling in a trial, getting on a trial, and then, these questions come up. And we do, as the care team, and Erin can probably, attest as a coordinator, we do really try to emphasize this when we're doing the informed consent process, going over everything, but realize that you are signing up and enrolling in a clinical trial. Something that I really love, and I don't think we use enough, and Erin and I have been talking about this a lot lately, are brochures for trials, plain language summaries that help you guys, I think we need to do a better job with informed consent, because it's so lengthy and it's so, the medical jargon is intense on the informed consents. So I really like to supplement the consents with having a plain language summary or a brochure. And I think that's very helpful. I know a lot of the trials have them now. I'm not going to say 100% do, but every time we open a new trial or they offer it, I'm like, okay, where is the brochure? Because we can send you home with an informed consent, but it's really nice to get sent home with just a really nice summary that's in non-medical jargon, right? So please ask for that as well, and know that they are available for a lot of trials. And the shared decision making, this kind of goes back to the family and friends, but also with your oncology team. Dr. Carney, who's Barbara's doctor, has always, always talked about that shared decision making. I learned a lot from her in that. Like, really, we want to be, you're a partner in your care. You're not just going to do things because Dr. Akoba told you to do it, right? Or Krista told you to do it. It's we need to work together to decide, have a shared decision on what is best for you, for your family, for your overall care. That is super important and needs to align with your goals. Like Dana said, it worked for their family, right? That worked for their family. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? You got to look at all of those things and really understand, what are you signing up for? What does it mean to be enrolled? And please, again, involve your family and your support systems, because they want to help. They want to be involved in your care, and it makes it so much easier, I think, when we have them involved. And it's really important to ask questions. The questions, if you don't want to walk away not understanding, and that's why we do have a rule that we give you the informed consent. You have to have time to review it, to understand what you're signing up for, think about it. You have the opportunity to ask questions. So I am happy to take questions just based on my short presentation here, but I think it was a lot of things we've already gone over. But any last questions before we break? Of course, Linda.
I think we could take just maybe one or two. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. We will have time after all the presentations are over to do more questions, but we could take one or two.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. I just wanted to add, another resource that you could use.
My mother had breast cancer, and I've had breast cancer, and my sister has had breast cancer. So when I first found out my first diagnosis in 1993, I told my sister, I'm going to check with the Straub Clinic where my mother had her treatment. And then the people there gave us the kinds of drugs that she had taken back in the 1970s, which was the standard of care that Dr. Akoba talked about. I was alarmed to find out that those 4 drugs that she had were the same drugs that I was going to be given. And so, that's why I decided to go into a clinical trial, because I wanted to know that there was a future for me. And so I'm still alive 30 years later.
Thank you. Are we done?
At the age of 4.
I wanted Dana to bring us home with one last piece. Dana, would you come up about the RevMed? And yes, it's really important. It's really an important kind of way to send us off.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, as I said, Bobby was a part of a trial at the time. The drug was called RMC 6236. It's now called daraxonrasib. He was in phase 1-2 of the trial. He actually got the dose we were hoping he would get. And as I said, it gave him 10 good months of being healthy and strong. And I was so happy to find out that Hawaii was getting phase 3 of that trial. And there has recently been a press release that came out on Monday. From the phase 3 trials, daraxonrasib has almost doubled the overall survival rate for pancreatic cancer patients. And so not only did it benefit Bobby and our family, but because of him, patients here in Hawaii have access to that drug in a clinical trial, and they're going to be looking to apply to fast track. I think there's a waiver to make it a standard of care treatment for people all over the country. And so this is, I think, widely known in cancer research. This is groundbreaking. This is game-changing stuff. And so I know how happy he would be to have been a part of moving this research forward. And like you said, I mean, you can go years. There hadn't been this kind of breakthrough in a long time in pancreatic cancer. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Resources in the back. Please stop by to check out our resources in the back. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this today. Really enjoyed it.
Round of applause once more, please, for Krista Braun-Inglis. She's such a resource, a font of knowledge. Thank you. Thank you very much. Folks, I know we want to respect your time, but I think you will not mind that I will deviate just briefly from your printed program because we have a surprise speaker who wasn't going to speak, but I think you won't mind the deviation. We're going to bring up Peter Hirano right now to say a few words.
So when we were putting this program together, given the date, I said, I don't want to speak. As I sat here and listened to this wonderful panel, I got a little more inspired to try to say something and try to hold it together. So I wrote down a couple of notes. But you know, one of the things that Sue always said, she said a lot, but one of the things she always said was, tell two people about what's going on right here. Tell two people about what's going on at Ho'ola. Go tell your friends, go tell your family, go tell your coworkers, go tell your colleagues. I always say tell four, okay? So I would ask that of you today. The other thing that I hope is that, you know, so I tell this story all the time. Sue has a desk in our house that's still there. It's the way she left it. And she had a little sticky note. And I don't know where this quote came from, but the sticky note says, Legacy is not what you leave behind, it is what you awaken in others. And I hope that this session today has awakened something for you. It's taught you something, it's given you a way to think about something. There's been a lot of talk about self-advocacy, and for those of you that were here last year when we launched this program and Sue spoke, I'll never forget it. She talked about her self-advocacy. I used to say, and I still say this, that when the doctor saw her on the schedule, they knew they were going to be behind for the rest of the day. Okay? So I hope this has awakened something in you. And, sorry. Nope. So, but I wanted to thank you for coming. This was her baby. So, thank you. Thought I was going to get through that. Thought I was going to get through it, but didn't. But anyway, I thank you for coming. You know, we're going to have, Esme will talk about what we're doing next and what we're going to do in July. We hope that you hang around. There's a wonderful video of Ho'ole'a. It's too bad we couldn't get in there, so please watch it. Please stick around and network, right? I always say, you know, when we did this session in January, I said, hey, walk away with one new phone number, a new connection, somebody to network with. That's what the spirit of this is, okay? So go talk to the experts, go talk to the people who have lived through some of what you're going through, network with each other, and build some community. So I hope you have a chance to do that and can stick around. So with that, sorry for the deviation, but thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Peter. We want to be respectful of your time, so I'm going to talk really fast for this closing, and then we're going to go to the videos, because I know you want to think of it as movie time. Peter started to talk about our next events. Please do, we have flyers for this that are, if you don't already have them, Michelle's got them there. And we're talking about our next, that flyer talks about our next 2 events. So coming up in July, we're going to have an event focusing on art therapy for the cancer journey, and we hope you will join us for that. We're having really exciting conversations about what kinds of experiences we will provide. It's not, if you saw an earlier version of this flyer, I think it said it was only for patients, or it didn't say only, but it said for patients, but actually patients, survivors, thrivers, caregivers, family members, anybody related to the cancer journey is welcome to come. So yeah, okay, good. Please do mark your calendar for that. And then beyond that, in October, we are planning an event around movement and fitness and wellness, how that impacts your cancer journey. And again, everyone is invited. So please mark your calendar for that. And share that flyer. We'll also have that flyer online, make it easy for you to share it digitally as well. So there's that. Peter already covered the tell people, tell 2 people, tell 1,000,000 people what you learned here today. And I would also add, I think sometimes Susan would also say, tell 2 people and ask them to also tell 2 people. And that way the conversation keeps on moving forward. We keep building our networks. Definitely, if you have further questions on the topic of clinical trials, we have our wonderful resources back there on our Cancer Center table. Thank you, folks, for helping us today. Could you please give them a round of applause? They've been wonderful resources today. So please feel free to stick around, talk story. As Peter said, we want you to build connections here. We want you to have friends here and come back again and again and recognize faces. Please stay for lunch as well. We've got those pinwheel sandwiches, the wrap sandwiches, and chicken and fruit. And so we want you to help yourself and feel comfortable. Mahalo nui for joining us today, for joining this growing community, for having a heart for our panelists and our experts and your community. We hope that you found it empowering and educational today. And if you are leaving us right after I close, please drive carefully. Mahalo. And if not, we'll go to the video. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, my name is Mari Martin. I'm 32 years old and I'm a cancer survivor. At the age of 4, I was having a lot of bruising on my body. It was just kind of unusual, and the bruises would really just stay with me for long periods. My parents took me to my pediatrician, and from there, she recommended doing some additional blood work and having just some more testing done. And at that point, they diagnosed me with ALL, so acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The pediatric oncologist had recommended a 2.5-year clinical trial through the University of Hawaii Cancer Center as a means to stay in Hawaii and get my cancer treatment. Obviously, my parents were devastated. I think it's a parent's worst nightmare. You never want anything bad to happen to your child. And while the prognosis for leukemia is fairly positive, it was going to be a really big lifestyle change for us. I would spend about a week out of every month in the hospital doing the treatments, which is fairly minimal for people going through cancer treatment as a whole. I've been able to advocate for these clinical trials. I think there's a lot of misinformation or even myths around these clinical trials. I think generally the fears or concerns are very valid, but this is tried and true medical treatment that's been tested, that's been researched. I would definitely say consult obviously with your oncologist, your team of doctors, but consider it earlier on in your treatment if that's possible and if that makes sense. I don't think it's a last ditch or a last resort kind of effort. For me, it was the first line of treatment and something we considered very early on that worked really well for me. Some people's prognoses are not quite as optimistic as mine was, so really having those conversations I think is important. Whether you're seeking clinical trials through the UH Cancer Center or somehow benefiting from the work, it's so important to be close to your support system, whether that's your immediate family or just being close to your friends as well. The Ho'ola Early Phase Clinical Research Center really represents a beacon of hope for our community here in Hawaii. Being able to stay here at home and having that technology right here in our backyard is what our community really needs.
My name is Dr. Naoto Ueno. I'm the director of the University of Hawaii Cancer Center and a breast medical oncologist and clinical trialist. I spent my career developing new cancer treatment and caring for patients through clinical trials. I'm also a cancer survivor myself. That perspective shapes everything I do. When we talk about this work, we are talking about bringing new cancer treatment options to the people of Hawaii and the Pacific here at home. The idea is simple. We bring promising new cancer treatments to patients in Hawaii through careful, monitored clinical trials. These are treatments that may not yet be widely available, but they represent the future of cancer care. In the past, many patients had to leave Hawaii, far from home and family, to access these options. Our goal is to change that. We want patients to have access to innovative treatment without leaving the island. The word Ho'ola means healing and restoring life. This is not just a research program. It is a place where patients receive advanced care with dignity, safety, and compassion. Here, patient safety comes first. Every clinical trial is carefully reviewed and follows strict rules. Each patient is supported by a trained team throughout the entire process. This is a structured, closely monitored way to offer a new option to patients who need them. This effort is also about making sure that the people of Hawaii are part of the future of medicine. Many communities here and across the Pacific have not been fully represented in the clinical trials. That means they may not fully benefit from medical progress. This new treatment center helps change that. It allows our patient and our community to be part of discovery and innovation. We deserve to be at the center of it. That is what this effort means to us, and that is why it matters. Mahalo nui loa for your support of Ho'ola and the University of Hawaii Cancer Center.
I'll just take a moment to add a little bit of commentary on the video that you just saw. The first half, which was the profile of Mari Martin, was done by Black Letter Group, which was Bobby Sanaha's company. So it was really an honor to work with that company to produce this video of Mari Martin. So bless. It was really a blessing. Wonderful team there at Black Letter Group. They've been marvelously supportive. The other thing I'd like to say is, so the second half that you saw with Dr. Ueno, one fact that is not all people are not always aware of, two things. We are the only NCI designated cancer center led by a 2-time cancer survivor. So he knows intimately, as he said in the video, what it is to walk that journey. So this is a passion for him. It's not just work. It's a passion for him that blows up my phone at 2 a.m. and all the rest of our team as well. He's working around the clock on that. The other thing that I just wanted to point out, and we actually are working on a video to tell this particular part of the story. Dr. Ueno, since we were talking about clinical trials today, so Dr. Ueno has survived 2 types of cancer. He's had sarcoma and he's had a type of blood cancer. One of the drugs that saved his life was a drug that he worked on as a clinical trialist. So he was involved in the development of a drug that saved his life. It's a wild story. So with that, since you all are sticking around for movie time, we will shift into our second video, which is the origin story of our cancer care community.
So in October 2021, Sue was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She said she went from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. It was devastating news, but I tell you what, my wife dove into the research. She dove into understanding what went into treating her cancer and ultimately getting rid of it. She dove into alternative medicine and alternative therapies. She dove into mindfulness. She dove into acupuncture. She dove into Reiki. She dove into everything. She was convinced that the medicine would help her, but all the other things in and around her would help her as well. And out of that, she created this vision for the Cancer Center. She knows that the Cancer Center does wonderful work here in the state of Hawaii, but she saw a vision for how it could help impact people's lives even more.
Susan and I met a few months after I came into my role as the Associate Director of Development. I had learned that she was a patient of Dr. Ueno's looking for a way to help support the Cancer Center and our research in some way, shape, or form. And when I met her, I just instantly gravitated to her, and I loved her positivity and her enthusiasm for the work that we were doing.
What Susan saw here at the Cancer Center was a need to also reach patients and serve the community on a social, emotional level, and that would affect their health outcomes. They would be able to survive and live a greater life.
As a patient, she was really looking for ways to connect with other patients that had a similar experience to hers. So this was all her idea, and I fell in love with it, and I really just wanted to help her to make this vision come alive, and that was how the cancer care community was born.
Nobody should actually go through the journey of cancer just by herself or himself. And that was Susan's vision. Cancer Center is committed to this vision that Susan has created, trying to empowering yourself to really go through this journey strong and bring resilience. It's about you, and this is what this community is about.
Sue was very happy to see this thing launched, the program launched on April 5th. And we're so thankful that it got launched.
This is my purpose, and I couldn't be happier helping all of you.
When I met Susan, she just had such a beautiful and positive spirit about her, and we were just friends immediately, and because she cared so much. It made me care a lot, and her passion absolutely translated over into my passion, and she just became a very dear friend to me, and I depended on her, and it felt like she was my partner. I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to meet her and be a friend to her, and just have the experience of knowing her.
When Susan walks into a room, she brings so much energy. She brings light, she brings ideas, she brings enthusiasm, creativity, courage, strength, and she's inspired so many people here. She's changed so many people's lives. She's changed mine. And she has made us think differently about how we are taking care of the community, and kind of lit a fire under our collective okoles to really take this program to the next level and keep it going in perpetuity.
Each and every one of you matter. We want this to be your family. We want this to be your new home. We want this to be a place where you feel safe sharing. We want you to recognize people when you come back so that you feel welcome and supported and can share your stories. So thank you so much for coming and showing up.
I think Susan would be thrilled to see all of you here today and see what this program has done. So thank you very much for staying and watching that. Again, I want to respect your time. If folks, if you do need to go, please don't feel shame, but help yourself to food on the way out. If you would like to stay, Michelle and I were talking about this. Not a lot of folks know about Susan's work on behalf of our center. And we have a brief video about that. I have to shout out Bo one more time. Bo Cuizan, standing there in the back, is our videographer. He actually put together the interview with Dr. Ueno. He put together this origin story about Susan Hirano, and also the video that we're about to run here. Now, again, if you need to go, we want to respect your time. Please don't feel shame. You can walk out. But Susan also has been instrumental in advocating for our center on a state level. And the last legislative session, she was right alongside with us at the legislature and was instrumental in getting that bill passed to increase funding for our center rather significantly. Now, unfortunately, certain legislators put some parameters around it, so we can't use that money the way that we hope. But we have been told that we will continue to work on how to resolve that situation. However, that doesn't diminish what Susan did for us. And if you'd like to see this portion, we have a brief video that talks about Susan's impact there.
Susan believed in our Cancer Center's mission and came to the legislature this session to testify on bills affecting cancer patients, including this measure. And she did all this while facing stage 4 metastatic breast cancer.
What an incredibly remarkable woman. She was clearly struggling, yet she really just gave all of her time and energy in her final days to really see this measure through.
While Susan could have spent her last days with her family, her friends, and recovering from cancer treatments, she was right here at the Capitol, in front of all of us in committee hearings, advocating for this bill. Members, this measure is by no means perfect, as it will still require further work in the future. What this bill is, however, is a good start to stabilize the University of Hawaii Cancer Center so that they continue their critical research. Research, Madam Speaker, that can only be done here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center, which really makes it our cancer center. We have a unique population, Madam Speaker, one that cannot easily be replicated anywhere else in the country or even the world. While national data on cancer rates classify many ethnicities and racial groups into the Asian and Pacific Islander category, our Cancer Center conducts research so that we can continue to look at the Asian American and Pacific Islander category and disaggregate that data so that we can really look at Native Hawaiians, Japanese, Chinese, and Filipinos, and look at data about our people, for our people, so that we continue to look at interventions and address the cancer disparities we face. The best way to beat cancer, Madam Speaker, is to prevent or detect it early when treatments are the most effective. That is why the research done at our cancer center is so critical, so we can begin to address cancer rates within our unique populations and do everything we can to save more lives. Research on health disparities, genetic predispositions to cancer, screening modalities, and clinical trials are all being done right here because of our cancer center. The work must continue. I would like to close, Madam Speaker and colleagues, by recognizing an advocate for our cancer center, Susan Hirano. I first met Susan through the Cancer Center's Patient Advocacy Council, where Susan and I were both volunteer members. Susan believed in our cancer center's mission and came to the legislature this session to testify on bills affecting cancer patients, including this measure. And she did all this while facing stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. The physical and emotional toll of cancer is real, but sharing her voice to make sure that others could benefit from the breakthrough research became her mission. Unfortunately, Susan's cancer journey ended recently, and she is no longer with us. While Susan could have spent her last days with her family, her friends, and recovering from cancer treatments, she was right here at the Capitol, in front of all of us in committee hearings, advocating for this bill. So I'm also standing here today for Susan, who would be up there in the gallery, continuing to support this measure if she were still with us. Mahalo, Madam Speaker and colleagues, and I urge you to support this measure.
So I had the opportunity to meet Susan. What an incredibly remarkable woman. She was clearly struggling, yet she really just gave all of her time and energy in her final days to really see this measure through. So thank you, Corey, for your work on this. Thank you, Chair of Higher Ed, and all the members. Thank you for your support on this measure. Susan was a remarkable woman. It's an honor to vote and support this for her and her memory. Thank you.
Representative Garrett.
Strong support, and if I could just adopt the words of the prior speaker, please, as if they were my own.
Representative Lee.
Same request.
Representative Lachika.
Same request.
Representative Miyake.
Same request.
Representative Kahaloa.
Same request.
Representative Capella.
Same request.
Representative Iwamoto.
Same request.
Representative Kila.
Mahalo, Madam Speaker, in support.
Representative Moroka.
In strong support.
Representative Alcos.
In support.
Representative Souza.
In support.
Thank you for staying to watch that. And I would just, as a postscript to that story about Susan's dedication, truly, those were, so if you imagine that the legislative season typically begins around mid-January and runs to the first week of May, and Susan passed away on April 18th, that means that her last days, truly, she spent so many of them, she spent so many of them advocating for us, fighting for us. And I will never forget the conversations that we had, because she had never done it before. She would call me and go, I've never testified like this. What do I do? How do we do this process? And then she would show up at the Capitol. We're at the Capitol, and and we've just it can be intimidating to people or confusing, and there she was, ready to take the stand, ready to talk about the center and the important work that's done here. So I like so many people, when I watch that video or I think of her at the ledge, I just think, if she can do it, we can do it. If she can speak out, we can speak out. It's one of the most valuable lessons I think she's ever taught us. So with that, thank you very much again for staying with us through all, and I will give you over to lunch. And please, though, stay, talk story. We'd love to answer your questions and connect with you more. Mahalo for joining us today.